Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey, how you doing? My God, that hail. Did you have hail? Woo! I have skylights. It sounded like it was going to break through. That was something. So anyway, hi. How are you? I know I've often said I can't make an exit, but I'm not great at entrances either, as the case may be. In between, I hope I'm better. Hi, I'm Lynn Cullen. Welcome to the beginning of a new week, the first week in May. Wow. Of 2016. In fact, it is May 2nd. I'm finally onto the, so you know what that means, tomorrow, the strobe. Tomorrow, the fire alarm test. Tomorrow, I'll start the show like this. Hunker down, because the strobe lights start going. It comes around so fast. Anyway, how you doing? Did you, I hope there was, oh God. Did you watch the White House Correspondents' dinner? I'm such a idiot. I was watching it. I was even watching the red carpet stuff beforehand. I was so eager to see the president's last stand at this affair because he's been so funny in his tenure. So great. I mean, this guy with so much skill and so much talent is also a fantastic deliverer of a comedic speech. That's not easy. I mean, it's just the coolness. God, I'm going to miss him. And that's what he said. He got up and he looked around and he sort of had this smirk on his face, which drives people crazy. And he said, you know, you're going to miss me. And you know, there are people that are literally, I mean, their heads are exploding. It is that refusal to be anything but what he is, which just happens to be the smartest, the coolest, whatever, everything. Up here wins all the contests, smart contests, how far you got in life contests, good father contest, good husband contest, good son-in-law contest, good friend, I'm sure, contest. I mean, the guy is pretty remarkable, and it'd be hard to be him and not be a little bit cocky. And he is cocky. I let the cocky go because I think he earned it. And I think it's done enough with enough of a panache that it's not off-putting to me. But of course, if you don't like his politics, if you don't like his skin color, it is really, really hard. And this was his final go-round at this event, which he clearly loathes, but which he stars in every year. This was his 8th and final appearance. And I'll tell you, if you might have seen little bits of it. I really do recommend. Look it up. Enjoy it. There's a wonderful, sometimes it's not quite right, but there's a clever little video inserted into it of what he will be doing once he's, a lame duck, once he really doesn't have anything to do. And it opens with him in the White House movie theater, munching on popcorn, watching, I forget, it was like a tearjerker movie. I can't remember what movie they're watching. And he's sitting there, and next to him is John Boehner crying, sobbing through the movie. It was so cute. And then he turns to Boehner, who's just retired, about, what do we do? What do I do with my life? And Boehner and him, it is so cute. And I'm watching Boehner do this with the president. And I'm wanting to tear my hair out. Because here are these two men getting along, laughing, doing something funny. And yet, when Boehner was the Speaker of the House, he wouldn't even return his phone calls. I mean, jeez. So, if you saw it, you got to have loved it. I want to get to Larry Wilmore's presentation in a bit, because that was a little more fraught. But I'm sorry for those of you who already heard all this stuff. I just want to, can I give you some of Obama's better lines? Celine, does everybody know these already? You sure? Have you heard them? No. See, Celine hasn't heard them. Okay. And the thing is, I'm not going to deliver them as well. He's just so good. And there was nothing cooler than the end. When he said, what was this? He put his hands, somebody help me. He's so cool, I don't even get a lot of it. He put his two fingers, well, no, it was this, because he was holding Mike in his left hand, and he put two fingers on his, like this. He said, Obama out. And dropped the mic. And it was done so, but I don't know what this was. Obama out. Oh, damn. And I was thinking, oh, no, he's right. We're going to miss him. I mean, my God, we'll either have the beginning of the end of the American Republic and a dictatorship of Donald Trump, or we'll have the stolid, competent first female president who's hardly charismatic and can't deliver like what he does. And yeah, I miss him. Oh, God. Anyway. Actually, the first swipe he took was at Hillary, which stunned me. Here's what he said. 2 hits at her. He took a hit at the colored people time thing she got involved with de Blasio. He said, I apologize. I know I was a little late tonight. I was running on CPT, which stands for jokes that white people should not make. And then he goes on to say, anyway, here we are, my 8th and final appearance at this unique event, and I am excited. If this material works well, I'm going to use it at Goldman Sachs. Earn me some serious Tubmans. Love it. Okay. Here was another good line. They just came bang, bang, bang. But standing here, I can't help but be reflective, a little sentimental. 8 years ago, I said it was time to change the tone of our politics. In hindsight, I clearly should have been more specific. Because clearly, it got worse. He meant to say, I want to change the tone in a positive direction. It didn't go that way. And then he says, 8 years ago, I was a young man full of idealism and vigor, and look at me now. I am gray, grizzled, just counting down the days till my death panel. Hillary once questioned whether I'd be ready for a 3 a.m. phone call. No, I'm awake anyway, because I got to go to the bathroom. I love it. I love it. But I got to tell you, what a bunch of thin-skinned jerks comprise our media and governmental elite. You could see the ones who simply, they're used to being treated with great respect and do not cotton to being on the receiving end of negative things. The one that looked literally like he was going to kill was a target of mine, so I loved this. Wolf Blitzer. It was Wilmore who went after him, and it was ugly. It wasn't even almost funny. It was just, you're a boring idiot. He even screamed at him, ask a follow-up question. CNN took it on the chin. MSNBC did too. Fox News, I don't think, was even acknowledged. But the president, in regard to CNN, said, even the reporters are leaving me. Savannah Guthrie, she's left the White House press corps to host the Today Show. Nora O'Donnell left the briefing room to host CBS This Morning. Jake Tapper left journalism to join CNN. Tapper handled it pretty well. He laughed. He sort of laughed. And then he saw that all his colleagues at the CNN table were not laughing, so he sort of zipped it up. I love this line. Somehow, in my final year, my approval ratings keep going up. The last time I was this high, I was trying to decide on my major. And then he looks at his vice president, Joe Biden, who's sitting at the table right in front of the head table, and he's sitting next to Helen Mirren. And he actually had Helen Mirren on his left, and he had Mike Bloomberg on his right. And the president says, I do in this last year have more appreciation for those who have been with me for this amazing ride. Joe Biden, God bless him. Love that guy. I love Joe Biden. And I want to thank him for his friendship, for his counsel, for always giving it to me straight, for not shooting anybody in the face. Thank you, Joe. Oh, man. Good stuff. So anyway, there's tons of it, and I'm not. And Bernie was the only. Hillary wasn't there. Trump wasn't there. Cruz wasn't there. Kasich wasn't there. But Bernie was there. And I think it was Wilmore who said something like, it's great to see Bernie Sanders here. Usually Bernie attends the early bird special correspondence dinner. Here he is, and then the president says, what an election season. For example, we have the bright new face of the Democratic Party here tonight, Bernie Sanders. And then he says, I'm hurt, though, Bernie, that you've been distancing yourself from me. I mean, that's just not something you do to your comrade. Love it. Love it. Anyway, and then he made fun of the Republicans, and the whole disaster. And he said, on the Republican side, things are a little more, how should we say this? A little loose. I mean, just look at the confusion over the invitations to tonight's dinner. Guests were asked to check if they wanted steak or fish. But instead, a whole bunch of you wrote in Paul Ryan. That's just not an option, people. Steak or fish. You may not like steak or fish, but that's your choice. Oh my, did a job on Ted Cruz and did a job, of course, on the Donald. They say Donald, this is the president, lacks the foreign policy experience to be president, but in fairness, he has spent many years meeting with leaders from around the world. Miss Sweden, Miss Argentina, Miss Azerbaijan. And there is one area where the Donald's experience could be useful, and that is in closing Guantanamo. Because Donald knows a thing or two about running waterfront properties into the ground. Obama out. All right. But the big stir was Wilmore. And what Wilmore did was sort of like what Colbert did when he had the gig, which was he played not to the crowd in this huge hall. He played to us outside of the hall because he mercilessly, as you know, took down the media and the Bush administration. And with the president right there, President Bush right there, it was courageous, I guess, or disrespectful, depending. I remember at the time thinking it was a little disrespectful because the president was there. Ultimately, this is a charitable event to raise money. They give scholarships to a lot of kids who are going to be majoring in journalism. But Wilmore sort of did the same thing. And he went after the media, and they just, you could have heard a pin drop sometimes when he delivered what should have been a laugh line. Because these guys think of themselves with such respect that the typical, they can dish it out, God knows. But they can't take it. He started right out. First of all, he's following the president. So the president just brought the house down and, great. And then Wilmore has to get up. And he said, I think he said, welcome to Negro Night at the Correspondents' dinner. And then he said, I want to welcome you to the event, or as Fox News will report it, 2 thugs disrupt elegant dinner in D.C. So right away, this sort of like this black thing was there with the overwhelmingly white audience. And I got to tell you, wow. And it was the white elite. It was the elite. Wilmore, as I said, just took down Wolf Blitzer on more than one occasion. And then he said, MSNBC now stands for missing a significant number of black correspondents. Because if you know, MSNBC somehow managed to fire or lose their 2 women who had shows, black Melissa Harris Perry and Joy Reid. And Wilmore goes on to say, and MSNBC put Chris Hayes on probation because they thought he was related to Isaac Hayes. And no laughs at the MSNBC table. Although I did see, what's his name? God, I don't watch it anymore and I can't think of it. Laughing. MSNBC got rid of so many black people, I thought Boko Haram was running the network. Wilmore. Oh, I just got a note from the president saying that if you want another drink, you should order it now because the bar is going to be closing down. Of course, he said the same thing about Guantanamo, so you should have at least another 8 years. But it was the end. It was his end that had the white folks swooning and the black folks going nuts. I will read it. This was Wilmore's end. All jokes aside, let me just say how much it means for me to be here tonight. I've always joked that I voted for the president because he's black. But behind that joke is the humble appreciation for the historical implications for what the presidency means. When I was a kid, I lived in a country where people couldn't accept a black quarterback. Now think about that. A black man was thought by his mere color not good enough to lead a football team. And now, he turned to the president, to live in your time, Mr. President, when a black man can lead the entire free world. Got a big hand, and then he said, words can do me no justice. So, Mr. President, if I'm going to keep it 100, that means keep it real. If I'm going to keep it 100, and here's what he said. He hit his heart, and he turned to the president, and he said, yo, Barry, you did it, my nigga. And there was this gasp, howl, who knows what. The president gets up, goes over, gets up and does this too, and then I think bangs his fist and hugs him. Yo, Barry, you did it, my nigga. You did it. That's what he said. Well, the white folks swooned, and the black folks went nuts. There is such, I cannot imagine. You're the president of the United States, and you're still, in fact, considered an interloper, an outsider, an out of place. The fact that you're so good and so cool at what you do makes white folks insane. And I loved this show of flat out black solidarity. You did it. Yo, Barry, he calls the president. Yo, Barry. You did it. And my nigga coming from his lips toward Barry, the first African American president of the United States, was pure love and a sense of I'm with you, you're with me, we're part of the same tribe, thank you. But to see all those white folks not know what to do. So, anyway, if you didn't see it, I would check it out, even though I've just been a spoiler. But I assure you, there's a ton more. I also thought Michelle Obama did a really classy thing. This was not in the main part of the thing. After they'd all eaten their meat, or their beef or fish or this or Paul Ryan, they give out these scholarships, and there's a ton of them. There's like 35 kids going off to college with a pretty sizable scholarship raised during this event. And the First Lady always hands them out. And so she was called up to the podium to do that. And the crowd was, they'd eaten their dinner. They're all, people are milling around these tables. There's thousands of people in this huge hall. And the First Lady says, we're not going to do this until you sit down. She didn't scream it, so she just said it in a normal tone into the mic, and nobody sits down. And so she turns to the woman who heads the organization, and she says, well, we'll just... And that woman looked nervous. I mean, and Michelle literally refused to go on. So she said, until you sit down, to show respect, not only for the First Lady, but for these kids who are about to be honored. And so without squawking at them like I would have done, with just this, again, we will start as soon as everybody sits down. And then she clearly just backed away and waited. And damn if they didn't. The high and the mighty and the self-important sat down and behaved like respectful adults and watched these beautiful young people have the moment of their lives. But if the First Lady had not done what she did, there would have been, as you know, that horrible sound when an audience is just absolutely ignoring what's going on stage, which, by the way, happens a lot at a lot of events, and I find so extraordinarily rude. We've turned into a really rude bunch. But, Michelle Obama doesn't take any crap. And I loved the way she handled that, the way she didn't. I can't think of many women who would have done that. You just sort of soldier on through I can't. She will not settle for the behavior that was out there, and so she ends up getting what she wants by simply being that firm. We're going to miss her too. Although Bill Clinton will be a piece of work. Geez, our first husband. Oh, man. And the president did say, by the way, when he got up, he said, so next year some other president is going to be standing here. And we don't know who she's going to be. Oh, God. Okay, have I bored you all silly? I hope not. Somebody, and RJ, sent me this, and I was reading it right before the show started, and it just blew me away. It reminded me a little bit, I like doing history. I love history, and I love getting it from these obits I'm always reading to you. And it was last week that we learned the story of this, I'm blanking on his name now, back into the dustbin of history, that Fred something, born Fritz, this kid who made it out of Germany, and right before Hitler started rounding the Jews up, and then Pearl Harbor happened, and he was 19 or 20. He signs up the next day, and then he ends up going back, literally airdropped into Germany in a German military uniform so he could pretend to be sort of a bewildered soldier who got separated from, and as a spy. And it's an amazing story of a life well lived. And he died at 95, I think, or something. What was his name? Mayer, right. Born Fritz Mayer. As soon as he got to the U.S., he changed his name to Fred, and he never wanted to hear Fritz again. But But somebody just sent me this. Somebody, RJ, South Park guy. And I was just scanning it, and I thought, oh, my God. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of this ball player, but I have. He's a baseball player, a major league player. I've heard of him because he was a Jew. And Jews are notoriously, I guess, not athletic. We're not... so that, every time there's a Jewish pro player, Jews go nuts. I mean, Sandy Koufax. Yeah! Greenberg. That was the other one for the Tigers. Hank Greenberg. I mean, we love it when a Jew excels in an area where there aren't many of our kind. And so I knew of Mo Berg. Knew the name. But you don't know the name, do you? Because it's not like it's Mickey Mantle. So here's a story. I did not know this. This is amazing. Listen to this history. We go back again to World War II. When baseball greats Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, two names went on tour in baseball-crazy Japan in 1934, okay? So this is, 7 years before the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and some other players, major league players, are over in Japan. And a lot of fans were wondering why a catcher named Mo Berg was included in the team, because he was third string on his team, and he wasn't that good, so why would you have Mo Berg go? He played with 5 major league teams from 23 to 1939. He just admittedly was a pretty mediocre player. But Mo was regarded as the brainiest ball player of all time. In fact, Casey Stengel once said, "That is the strangest man ever to play baseball." So when all the baseball stars went to Japan, Mo Berg did go with them, and many people wondered why he had. Here's the answer. Mo Berg was a United States spy working undercover. He spoke 15 languages, including Japanese. He had 2 loves, baseball and spying. In Tokyo, garbed in a kimono, Berg took flowers to the daughter of an American diplomat being treated in St. Luke's Hospital. It's the tallest building in the Japanese capital at the time. He never delivered the flowers. The ball player ascended to the hospital roof and filmed key features of the harbor, military installations, and railroad yards. 8 years later, General Jimmy Doolittle studied Berg's films in planning his raid on Tokyo. Says here, Mo read at least 10 newspapers every day, graduated magna cum laude from Princeton, studied at the Sorbonne in Paris, Columbia Law School. Well, when the hell did he become a mediocre catcher? He picked up Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Indian, Arabic. I think this thing has to be a little inflated here. While playing baseball for Princeton, Mo Berg would describe plays in Latin or Sanskrit. During World War II, he was parachuted into Yugoslavia to assess the value to the war effort of the 2 groups of partisans. He reported back to Marshal Tito, blah, blah, blah. He parachute jumped at age 41. He penetrated German-held Norway, went with members of the underground, and located a secret heavy water plant, part of the Nazi effort to build an atomic bomb. His information guided the Royal Air Force in a bombing raid to destroy that plant. There still remained the question of how far had the Nazis progressed to build the first atomic bomb. If the Nazis were successful, they would win the war. Berg, under the code name Remus, was sent to Switzerland to hear leading German physicist Werner Heisenberg, a Nobel laureate, lecture and determine if the Nazis were close to building an A-bomb. Mo managed to slip past SS guards, posing as a Swiss graduate student. He carried in his pocket a pistol and a cyanide pill. If the Germans indicated the Nazis were close to building a weapon, Berg was to shoot him and then swallow the pill. Mo, sitting in the front row, determined that the Germans were nowhere near their goal, thank God. So he complimented Heisenberg on his speech and walked back to the hotel. His report was distributed to Winston Churchill, President Roosevelt, and the president responded, "Give my regards to the catcher." After the war, Berg was awarded the Medal of Freedom. He refused to accept it because he couldn't tell people about what he'd done. After his death, his sister accepted the medal. It now hangs in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. Mo Berg's baseball card is the only card on display at the CIA headquarters in Washington, D.C. I didn't know. Wow. Mo. Who knew? Amazing. Chuck writes, when I see the Correspondents' dinner each year, I'm always surprised at the apparent camaraderie in that room. Every week of the year, the media covers every little cat fight between the Republicans and Democrats. But at this dinner, you see both parties happily dining with each other. Never was this more apparent than when they showed the Boehner-Obama video. It makes me wonder if politics is just an act. It's a game they play, God knows. I didn't like the Larry Wilmore speech all that much, but I didn't enjoy his jokes at CNN's expense. Yeah, he went after Don Lemon, who I thought handled it well. Wilmore said some of America's finest black journalists are here tonight. Don Lemon is here too. And Lemon laughed and then went like this, which is what I would do too, I think. And hey, Wolf, I'm ready to project tonight's winner. Anyone who isn't watching the Situation Room, which I thought was a little cheap. Anyway, yeah, it is unsettling to see. I tell you what's more unsettling about the White House Correspondents' Dinner is the coziness of the media with the bigwig pals they're supposed to cover. And any real reporter will tell you that once you aim to be in the same social set as the people that you cover, you ain't going to be as good a journalist. Once you know them as people, instead of just this cold journalistic aspect where you don't say, oh, but he's such a nice guy. You know? I mean, because I've interviewed people from the other side who you meet them, you like them. Wow, what a nice guy. And to think then that you don't pull your punches or sort of look the other way. My understanding is the New York Times refuses to have any presence at that event, even though they belong to the White House Correspondents, to the group. They won't do it because of exactly that. You don't go to dinner parties and hobnob with the very people you cover. It create that's that. There it is, the Washington elite. And once reporters become as much celebrities, all these guys are now celebrities. So that's what they have in common. They're recognizable. So seeing, Wolf Blitzer, he was seated, like it looked like, right next to Reince Priebus, the RNC chair. Now, I mean, he interviews him every 5 seconds. I mean, you can't. Well, you can, and they do. And it bespeaks, it used to be, before reporters started getting on television and becoming celebrities when they were just ink-stained wretches with a byline, there was better work being done. Celebrities don't do as good work. They don't. They can't. There's too much. There's other things that are distracting them, frankly. And the sense of being, in the same room and at the same table and of the same status as the very people they cover. Or in some cases, the very people they cover love being in the glow of the TV celebrities. So it wasn't much of a stretch when Hollywood actors started turning up at this event, because the news media would invite actors, stars, to come. So then the event becomes the political elite, the media elite, the Hollywood elite, or connected. And the rest of us are left with our noses pressed to the glass, and we get to look through the window. And what we see is, I don't know, it's not good. It's not good. All right, what do we have? Sorry, rarely do I agree, as you know, with anything in the Wall Street Journal editorial section, but they actually have an editorial today that I do agree with, that I was thinking the same thing. I don't think I would have phrased it exactly like they did, but you may recall, it was a long time ago now when Trump was just becoming, somebody that people were saying, my God, maybe there's something to this. And he shows up to deliver a speech in Chicago at a college campus there, and he had to cancel it because there was a threat of violence because protesters had staked the place out. He called it off. Now, I would argue, and I remember people saying, did you see what they did in Chicago? They shut him down. Way to go. And I thought, no on a lot of counts. First of all, I'm a member of the ACLU. Shutting someone's ability to give a speech is not something that anyone should be proud of doing. The First Amendment only works if everybody's allowed to assemble and speak. So when our side starts closing down speech, we're no better than the brown shirts who close down speech. It's the same thing. We don't get to decide. And here's the worst part of it. It plays right into the hands of the guy you're trying to hurt, Donald Trump. I'm willing to bet he scheduled that rally on that urban campus where the white population is a minority. I'm willing to bet he held it there knowing full well it would create this kind of a thing where he would then have to call the speech off because of the threat of violence from those lefties. He blamed it on Bernie Sanders supporters. Whatever. It doesn't matter. From those guys on the left, the Democrats. And I am never for shutting people down. As you know, the ACLU famously goes to bat for the Ku Klux Klan when they want to speak. The First Amendment only works if you understand that it is when it is allowing speech which you find unbearably offensive to occur. It's easy to be for free speech when what's coming back to you is everything you agree with. That doesn't take any doing. There wouldn't be any need for a constitutional, protection. The protection is for onerous speech, speech with which you do not agree. And if you can't understand that, then you really don't get the First Amendment. So shutting down a Donald Trump rally is nothing to be proud of. It's un-American. Okay? I'm just saying. It's suggesting that you don't think your side has views that can stand up to or withstand or take on the views expressed by the people you want to shut up. But it's a gift to Trump. It's like people who want to ban a book or a play or a piece or a film. As soon as you start doing that, all you do is create an audience for whatever it is you're trying to keep people from seeing. And it's amazing how people can't get that through their thick skulls. Okay, so that takes us to this editorial in today's Wall Street Journal, which has to do with, again, the Trump protests that happened in California, in which one of Trump's supporters was bloodied. I saw a picture of this guy, and he had blood all over his face. Great. Now, this was mostly people protesting his stand on immigrants, and they have, and they said, welcome to California, and this is going to happen every time you try to speak. And I got to tell you, it is not helpful. It doesn't prevent his speech. He can be on TV, right? And in fact, when there's video of his opponents engaging in violence, preventing people from assembling, hearing what they want to hear, plays right into his hands. So when I saw what happened in California, I just shook my head in despair. Trump is a serious threat to our republic, what's left of it. He's a serious threat. But you gotta be smart, tactical about how you try to take him down. These self-indulgent crap that just feeds right into his whole narrative is so counterproductive. It's unbelievable. You know what would kill him? Silence. Donald Trump loves nothing more than creating this kind of stuff. It makes him more powerful. It gives him more airtime. It feeds the juggernaut. What works best is silence and avoidance and the kind of hard work that isn't any fun and doesn't get you on the news. It is registering every person who can vote in November against him. It's doing that hard, sloggy, unexciting work that will win in November. And so the Wall Street Journal said, we're beginning to wonder if all those protesters showing up at Donald Trump rallies aren't secret supporters. They couldn't possibly be doing more to persuade millions of Republicans to vote for him, if only to defend the right to free speech and association. I can see being a Republican who said, I will never vote for him, and then watching our side behave so abominably that you think, well, geez, you look at our side and see a threat, a mob that doesn't understand the basic tenets of what supposedly makes this country exceptional. That First Amendment by itself makes our country exceptional. And so many of us, right, left, center, and all kinds, don't get it. Even Americans who don't support Mr. Trump may wonder who is really creating the hate. See, it's true. This stuff can be played to make us look bad, him look like a victim, which is this narrative he loves. The spectacles are made for the ratings cable TV fodder, and Mr. Trump knows it. Caller, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Lynn. It's Dave from Washington.
Hi, Dave.
I know there's a bit of a delay between what you're talking about
That's okay.
now and what I'm seeing on the internet, so I hope I'm not changing the
That's
subject.
okay. That's okay.
But, as much as I love Bernie Sanders, I am beginning to find Bernie Sanders supporters to be a bunch of juvenile, self-righteous assholes. Pardon my language. If you think for a second, first off, Bernie Sanders is not going to get the nomination, okay? At which point you shift from who you want to be president to who you don't want to be president. Strategic voting. You have got to vote against the Republican, who in this case is going to be Trump. A vote for anybody other than the Democrat who stands the greatest chance of defeating that Republican is a vote for the Republican. So if you're going to write in Bernie Sanders on principle, because I can't vote for Hillary Clinton, she's everything that I disagree with. If you think that you're going to get 1 inch closer to what you like in Sanders by letting Trump win, you're an idiot. And I don't know how else to put it. They're really starting to piss me off. Now, maybe come around November, they'll all grow up a little bit and see, like you said, Trump is dangerous. It's not just he's a bad choice. It's not just you don't want him. He is a threat.
Well, yeah, but I want to say, are you sure that calling Sanders supporters names is a way to get them into the bigger tent?
No, but I've tried using logic and pleading and everything else, and they're fighting back.
Okay, because they haven't. It's not time for them yet. They can't. Yeah. So you should keep yourself a little under control and give them time to come around. Give Bernie a little more time, I think. Because ultimately, after the conventions, it will become very clear to everybody what the choice is, right?
I flashed back to 2000 and all the people who so self-righteously voted for
Nader. I know.
Because I can't bring myself to vote for Gore. Well, who would have thought the disaster that would result from that?
Exactly.
You know?
God, thank you for your self-righteousness.
Exactly. And I bet all those people who voted for Perot in 92 and...
Thank you for sticking with your principles.
Exactly, and
I
how did that
appreciate
work out
it.
for you?
Yeah.
And my sister in 92, I see a similarity between her and what these Sanders folks are doing today. They just think that people are going to miraculously wake up on election morning and without being told to or prompted or anything, they're all going to go in and they're going to write in Bernie Sanders. My sister was absolutely convinced that Ross Perot was going to win in 92.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know. Well, she's out of her mind anyhow. But just everybody's going to wake up with this epiphany and go out and write in Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, if he doesn't have enough votes to get the nomination, how is he possibly going to get enough write-in votes to get the president?
Right. I mean, that's just foolishness, obviously.
Right. And if you're voting on principle, talk to a Nader voter, talk to a Perot voter, and ask them, how did that work out for you? You got to be pragmatic and strategic.
Well, that's what, but when you are young, I'm talking about his young supporters, pragmatism is not something, I mean.
Ideology.
Yes, and passion for what? Yes, I mean you're not given to what you and I in our older age are given to. But I mean, because weren't you young like that once?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm trying to remember if I came around. I always did come around because there was never, I mean, the threat of the other was always so intense.
Right.
But I hope these kids will get it.
But it isn't just kids.
It's not just kids.
No, I'm hearing it from my peers, people that I, know.
Yeah.
And good staunch liberals, if not Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just very, very frustrating.
Well, God save us from people who don't get that ultimately it's one of these two, I'm quite clear, is going to be the next president of the United States.
Yep.
And if you can't see that one of them is better than the other, then not perfect, so far from perfect, it's a joke.
Absolutely.
Don't have to love her, any of that. Not perfect, but my God, imagine the other.
I can save my hyperbole for October or so.
Yeah, I would give it a rest until, he's still talking about taking it to the convention, fine. If he wants to, that's fine. He wants the party to acknowledge, and I think it should, that the Democratic Party is close to looking like what the Republican Party looks like this time.
Yes.
Okay? All those people are trying to tell the Democratic establishment that we're not getting you guys anymore because you don't give a crap about us.
Well, there's that.
There's that. So, I don't blame him and I don't blame them, but we need to, again, play this right, and you're not going to get them to turn around by screaming at him.
That's right, okay. But if you think that, let's say Hillary Clinton wins, but Bernie Sanders gets 5 million write-in votes, okay, do you think that they're going to wake up the next morning and say, boy, Bernie Sanders got an awful lot of votes. We had better adopt some of the things in him that these 5 million people liked so much about him. That ain't going to happen. They're going to say, hey, we won, woo, screw those 5 million people. So if you're trying to send a message, you got to do it during the primaries, not during the election itself. You've got to vote against.
And they've done it during the primary. I mean, he could still win Indiana tomorrow. I mean, there is a sizable hunk of Democrats that like Bernie and what he's saying a whole hell of a lot more than the usual from the Democratic establishment. We do not like, and I am including myself, we don't like either of these parties' establishments anymore.
No.
I can't stand the Democratic Party establishment.
That's why I refuse to register as one.
Okay, fine. Well, whatever. I feel the same way. But my God,
Can't have the Republicans.
Trump, you got two choices, like what the president was saying about the menu. You can have a filet or you can have fish.
Rotten fish.
That's right. Trump, Clinton. That's what it's going to be.
Yep. And I'm looking forward to voting for it, to be honest with you.
Well, I am too.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm scared.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know what? The lesser of two evils?
Yeah.
Yes. But
yes.
You cannot allow the greater of the two evils to prevail. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
It is that simple.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David. Henri writes, I laughed and then cried after reading this. After Trump's foreign policy speech, he was interviewed by Greta Van Susteren. She asked him a pointed question about Pakistan, and here is what he said verbatim. Okay, here's what I will read it. Yes, this is your next potential president. Yes, if you don't vote for Hillary. Yes, Trump said. But the problem with Pakistan, where they have nuclear weapons, and, which is a real problem, again, the single biggest problem we have is nuclear weapons, countries with them. And it's not only a country. You have 9 countries right now with nuclear weapons, but it's semi-unstable. And we don't want to see total instability. And it's not that much, relatively speaking. And we have a little bit of a good relationship. And I think I'd try and keep it. And it's very much against my grain to say that, but a country and that's always the country, I think, we give them money and we help them out. But if we don't, I think that would go on the other side of the ledger, and that could really be a disaster. At the same time, if you look at India and some of the others, maybe they'll be helping us out because we're going to look at it. But we have many, many countries that we give a lot of money to and get absolutely nothing in return. What the F did that mean? What? How was that different than that poor beauty queen trying to answer that question that she... What? I mean, it was one non sequitur after another. I didn't even know what? Wow. There. Gee whiz. Okay, that's a little scary. God help us. And one more quickie. My friend was in her 50s in 2008, and she wrote in Hillary Clinton instead of voting for Obama. I still can't believe she did that. Talk about cutting off your nose to spite your face. Well, it didn't. I mean, at least she didn't. Obama won. But that was somebody who couldn't do it. Couldn't. And I think there were a lot of people who were so for Hillary and were so upset that he came out of nowhere. The dark horse. And deprived her. But, hey, turns out she just needed to wait 8 years. We hope. Okay? Thank you very much. Go Pens! Thank you.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.